In a world that's just, well, run by code and connected devices now, these threats lurking in the digital shadows, they feel more and more real, don't they?
You really do. It
Yeah.
seems like every other day there's news of another breach.
Exactly. Or just that kind of nagging feeling about your own privacy online. Understanding how to protect yourself, your data, it's never been more critical. So the
Mm,
question is, how do you move beyond just, reading about cybersecurity and actually get your hands dirty, practice it somehow?
and that's precisely what we're digging into today.
Yeah.
This really compelling idea of building your own home cybersecurity lab.
Right. And we've gone through quite a bit of material for you. We've got insights from a couple of really good articles on setting one up, one from DEV Community, another from Level Blue.
Yeah, some solid starting points there.
Plus, some really interesting discussions from Reddit people talking about free lab options and also, what's actually involved if you want to monitor your own network traffic. Is that even okay?
That's a common question for
Wow.
sure.
And we even took a look into the fascinating world of honeypots, thanks to a post from the SANS Internet Storm Center.
Ah, honeypots.
Yeah.
Always interesting to see what they attract.
Definitely. So our mission today really is to give you a clear picture of why setting up a home lab is such a, well, powerful way to learn cybersecurity. What are the basic building blocks?
And some important things to keep in mind as you know, maybe start thinking about this journey yourself.
Mhm.
Think of it as your kind of personalized guide to getting those practical cybersecurity skills.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Why? Why should someone actually go to the trouble of setting up a home lab? It sounds like a bit of a project.
It can be, but the sources are really clear on the core benefits.
Yeah.
First and foremost, it's a completely safe zone, a place to experiment.
Safe zone, meaning,
Meaning you can try out different tools. You can even make mistakes, right?
right.
Without any risk of messing up your own computer or, heaven forbid, your work network.
Oh, yeah. Definitely don't want to do that.
No. The DEV community article really hammers this point home. It's a safe sandbox for practicing what people often call ethical hacking,
Right.
and also for honing your defensive skills.
Mm.
Like, think of it as a test kitchen. You can try out new recipes without burning down the actual house.
Huh. Okay, that makes total sense. A dedicated practice arena, basically.
Precisely. And it's not just about, avoiding accidental damage. It's an incredible opportunity to develop real hands-on skills.
Still, you can't just get from a book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Level Blue points out that a home lab gives you the freedom to test, to probe, to learn in ways that just aren't possible in a live production environment where everything has to be stable and secure. Right.
Hmm. Yeah, you can't just try something on the company server.
Definitely not. You can really push the boundaries in your lab, explore different scenarios.
Now, the DEV community article also mentioned career advancement. How does, tinkering in a home lab actually help you get a better job?
Well, demonstrating practical abilities is just gold in the cybersecurity field. Having a home lab, it shows initiative,
Okay.
and it gives you tangible proof of your skills. Think of it like a portfolio, but for cybersecurity.
Ah, okay. Like a designer's portfolio.
Kind of, yeah. You can document your projects maybe on GitHub or somewhere, show how you set up defenses, how you identified vulnerabilities, responded to simulated attacks. It's concrete evidence that goes way beyond just listing certifications on a resume.
Right. Shows you can actually do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Level Blue even mentions the practical value for proofs of concept, where you might run into really specific or, odd system configurations.
Because you wouldn't normally see.
Yeah. And a home lab lets you tackle those oddball issues in a controlled way. They mentioned possibly using tools like USM anywhere as a test bed in that
Yeah.
kind of situation.
Okay. You've sold me on the why. Now, the what? What are the essential
Right.
ingredients?
Like,
I'm still picturing blinking servers in a rack.
yeah, it doesn't have to start that way at all.
Yeah.
The basic requirements are actually surprisingly within reach for most people. Yep. Both articles agree on the key things, some hardware, the right software, and then something that's highly recommended but maybe not strictly mandatory right at the start, a dedicated network setup.
Okay, hardware first. Do I need, specialized gear, servers and stuff?
Not necessarily, especially not to begin with. The DEV community suggests just a reasonably powerful computer, something capable of running virtual machines or VMs smoothly.
Okay, reasonably powerful. What does that mean in practice?
Well, they give some helpful guidelines, maybe around 16 gigabyte of RAM. An SSD drive definitely helps with at least, say, 256 gigabyte of storage and a modern multi-core processor.
That sounds actually pretty standard for a lot of computers these days. Maybe even my gaming PC.
Could be. That gaming rig might actually be perfect for something productive for once.
Huh. All right.
And Level Blue points out an even more sort of minimalist approach. Just using virtualization software on your existing laptop or desktop.
Oh, so just software on the machine I already have.
Exactly. This all-in-one method is a fantastic way to just get started, see if it's for you, without needing a big upfront investment.
But Level Blue did also mention a more advanced setup, right? With dedicated servers and switches. That sounded more like my initial blinking lights idea.
They did, yeah. They gave an example of a lab with like HP servers, DL385, G6, and G5 models, some managed HP switches, even a WatchGuard firewall.
Okay, so that's the next level up.
For sure. That shows the potential for more sophisticated testing, especially when you get into network segmentation using VLANs.
VLANs, what are those again?
Virtual local area networks. Think of it like creating separate, isolated mini networks within your main physical network.
Ah, okay.
So you can keep all your lab activities completely separate from your regular home internet and all your other devices.
Yeah.
The really important safety stuff.
Gotcha. Keeps the experiments contained.
Precisely. And those advanced HP switches they mentioned, their layer 2 capabilities allow for that kind of setup. But again, definitely not where you need to start.
Right, right. Start small. Okay, what about the software side then?
So the essential software really boils down to two things:
Mm-hmm.
virtualization tools and operating system installation files.
Virtualization tools, like what?
Yeah, so the DEV community lists VMware Workstation, VirtualBox, Hyper-V. Those are probably the most common ones.
Okay.
And Level Blue specifically highlights VMware Fusion if you're on a Mac, or VMware Workstation Player for Windows. Both are really excellent for running those virtual machines.
And the operating systems. I can't just copy my work Windows license, can I? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not advisable, no. You'll need what are called OS ISOs. They're basically the installation files.
Okay.
Both articles mention getting various Linux distributions. Lots are free, and different versions of Windows if you need those. Level Blue specifically lists Kali Linux.
I liked that one.
Yeah, very popular for security testing. Also things like Windows 10 Pro, various Windows Server versions like 2012, 2016, 2019, and Ubuntu Server or desktop.
So a mix of stuff to play with.
Exactly. And the great thing is, many Linux distros are free, which definitely helps keep those initial costs down.
Good point. Okay, so I've got the basic hardware, got the software sorted. Now, this optional but recommended network setup. Why is that so important again? You mentioned VLANs.
Right. The main reason, as both sources really emphasize, is isolation, keeping your lab environment totally separate from your main home network.
So my experiments don't break my Netflix.
Exactly. Or worse. The DEV community mentions creating a separate network segment or using those VLANs we talked about.
Right, the virtual networks.
Yeah. It prevents any accidental testing mishaps in your lab from spilling over and affecting your internet access or other devices. You really wouldn't want to inadvertently launch some test that knocks out your home Wi-Fi while you're experimenting.
Definitely not. Okay, so the high-level steps then. Getting started. Is it basically just downloading software and clicking next a bunch of times?
For installing the virtualization software itself, yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah.
The DEV community keeps it fairly straightforward. Download it, install it,
Standard install process.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And then, once that's running, you can start creating your virtual machines within that software.
And setting up those VMs involves, like, deciding how much power they get.
Exactly. You allocate resources, RAM, processor cores, storage space, based on what your host computer can handle, like the DEV community points out.
Okay.
Then the next step is installing the operating systems from those ISO files you downloaded, and then putting whatever security tools you want to use inside those virtual machines.
Ah, which leads us to the really interesting bit, I think, the tools.
Yeah.
What are the must-have gadgets for this cyber toolkit?
Right. So for folks interested in penetration testing, that's basically simulating attacks to find weaknesses.
The ethical hacking part.
Yeah. Kali Linux is a real standout. Both the DEV community and Level Blue mention it. Level Blue really emphasizes how comprehensive it is. It's an OS specifically built for this stuff.
Yeah.
Widely used in the industry. It's made by Offensive Security, who are pretty well respected in the training space.
Gotcha. So Kali is key. What else?
Metasploit is another crucial one. It's a framework for developing and executing exploit code, also highlighted by DEV community.
Exploits. Okay. Sounds powerful.
It is. And Level Blue specifically mentioned WP Scan too, which is a free tool for checking WordPress sites for vulnerabilities. Lots of websites run on WordPress, so that's pretty useful.
Okay. So Kali Linux is kind of like the Swiss Army knife for the attacking side.
That's a pretty good analogy, yeah. Then on the defensive side, The DEV community points to tools like Security Onion,
Security, and
and
yeah.
it's great for network monitoring, intrusion detection, and also Snort, which is a very popular open source intrusion prevention system.
So tools to watch what's happening and block bad stuff.
Exactly. And if you happen to have, say, a WatchGuard firewall, like in the Level Blue example, they mentioned WatchGuard Dimension as a useful tool for analyzing the logs from that.
Right. But it's not just about having these tools, is it? I mean, where do I learn how to actually use them effectively?
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just having the tools isn't enough. The DEV community lists several really excellent learning platforms. Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, Cybery, RootMe, Udemy.
I've heard of some of those. Hack the Box, Try Hack Me. They have challenges, right?
They do. Guided labs,
Yeah.
challenges, they really help you learn by doing. And interestingly, that Reddit thread we looked at, it also mentioned some of these, but added other like Cyber Defenders, Security Blue Team, PruNed Labs, and Let's Defend.
More options. Nice.
Yeah, and they specifically highlighted that some of these offer free labs, places where you can practice things like incident response, handling threats when they pop up.
Free is always good when you're learning.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say my lab is up and running. I've got some tools installed. What kind of practical exercises should I actually be trying out first?
The DB community gives some really good starting points. First, just getting comfortable with vulnerability scanning, using tools like Nmap or OpenVAS.
Just seeing what doors are unlocked, basically.
Kind of, yeah. Understanding how to identify potential weaknesses in systems, that's fundamental. Then, simulating attacks is really key for learning.
How do you do that safely?
By setting up intentionally vulnerable virtual machines. There are ones specifically designed for this, like Metasploitable. You set that up in your lab, and then you practice ethical exploitation against it.
Ah, so you attack a willing victim, essentially.
Exactly, in your safe environment. It lets you see how attacks actually work step by step.
Ethical exploitation. I like that phrase. Learning how to be the good kind of hacker.
That's the idea. And don't forget the defense side. Practicing setting up firewalls, intrusion detection systems, like the DV community suggests, that's equally important.
See how well your defenses hold up.
Right. Level Blue also mentioned testing your whole network setup against various scenarios, which gives you a broader picture of how different security measures work together, or maybe where the gaps are.
Makes sense.
And that Reddit thread, remember, emphasized practicing incident response. What do you actually do when you detect a potential problem? That's a critical, real-world skill.
Okay, so practice finding holes, practice attacking them ethically, practice defending, and practice cleaning up the mess.
That's a pretty good summary, yeah.
Now, this is all about interacting with machines, networks. But I noticed something interesting in our sources about, well, us, the human element. It mentioned employees can be a big risk.
Oh, absolutely. That's a really critical point that the American Public University information highlighted. They stress that even if you have the best technical defenses in the world,
Yeah.
employees can still be a significant cybersecurity vulnerability if they're not aware of the risks. Simple things like using weak passwords, falling for phishing emails.
Clicking on dodgy links.
Exactly. Or even just using outdated software that hasn't been patched. These can all create major security holes.
So it's not always some super hacker finding a crazy technical flaw. Sometimes it's just someone making a mistake.
Very often, yeah. The information points out that many data breaches happen because of human error. Clicking that malicious link, opening a bad attachment, it can compromise an entire system.
Wow. That's actually kind of sobering.
It is. And they also highlight the danger of using software that's obsolete or just hasn't been updated with the latest security patches. Those are known vulnerabilities just waiting to be exploited.
So how does playing around in my home lab help me understand these kinds of human-related problems better?
Well, the information suggests that a home lab can be a safe space to understand certain vulnerabilities, like SQL injection or buffer overflows, which can sometimes be triggered by, say, mistakes in how users input information into a web form or something.
Ah, okay. So you can see how bad input can break things.
Right. By experimenting with these in your controlled setting, you get a much deeper appreciation for how seemingly small human errors can lead to significant security consequences.
Makes sense.
And the source really stresses that ongoing cybersecurity awareness training for everyone is absolutely crucial because the threats are constantly changing, constantly evolving.
Always learning. Okay, let's shift gears slightly to something maybe a little more intriguing. Packet sniffing on my own home network.
Is that generally okay to do? I wouldn't want to accidentally stumble into trouble.
Yeah, that's a fair question. The Reddit thread on this topic actually offered some useful insights. The general feeling there, particularly thinking about the US,
Oh,
is that monitoring the traffic on your own network is typically considered okay, especially if it's for your own learning and you're not, deliberately trying to look at other people's private data without permission.
right.
Tools like Wireshark are super common for this kind of network analysis. Think of it like trying to understand the plumbing, the flow of traffic inside your own digital house.
Okay. So as long as I'm just looking at what's happening within my own digital walls, it's generally all right. That seems to be the general understanding, yeah. However, the Reddit users were quite clear.
Yeah.
Be careful not to accidentally scan or sniff other networks, like your neighbor's Wi-Fi or something.
Yeah, definitely want to avoid that.
Right. While it might not automatically be, a major criminal offense, it's definitely frowned upon and best avoided.
Yeah,
But the main benefit for your home lab
yeah.
is that using packet sniffing tools on your own network traffic can be a really valuable learning experience. You see firsthand how data travels, what different kinds of traffic look like. You see the IP addresses, the MAC addresses.
Yeah.
It demystifies it a bit.
Okay, so keep the network exploration focused inward on my own setup. Got it. Now, honeypots. That just sounds cool. Like something from a spy movie. What are they really about?
Yeah, they do sound cool.
Yeah.
The Sanzes Internet Storm Center post really dives into this concept. Essentially, a honeypot is a system, or maybe just a service, that you intentionally set up to look like an attractive target for attackers.
Like bait.
It's exactly like bait. The whole idea is to see what kind of attacks are actually happening out there on the internet to attract them to this decoy.
And do they work? Do people actually attack them?
Oh, yeah. The SANS post highlights just how quickly these things can get targeted. They observe stuff like SSH brute force attacks, attackers trying millions of passwords, happening within minutes of the honeypot going online.
Minutes. Wow.
Yeah, minutes. And telnet attacks shortly after. It really just underscores the constant, relentless level of malicious scanning and automated attacks happening on the internet 24/7.
That's incredible. So it's like setting up a little trap to see the cyber bad guys in action.
Precisely. But, and this is really important, the SANS post strongly emphasizes how crucial it is to keep honeypots completely separate from your regular systems, your production network.
Yeah. You wouldn't want the bait to contaminate your actual network.
Absolutely not. There are also some pretty serious considerations about, liability and the security risks of deliberately running a vulnerable system connected to the internet. You have to be careful.
Makes perfect sense. Wouldn't want my little learning experiment to accidentally become a launch pad for real attacks out on the internet.
Exactly. That's the danger. The post mentioned some specific honeypot software, things like Kippo or HoneyDrive, which are designed for this. And they noted, again, just the incredibly short survival time of services like SSH when they're exposed. It really gives you a tangible sense of the constant probing out there.
This has been incredibly insightful, seriously. So to try and bring it all together, what are the key takeaways for someone listening who's now thinking, maybe I should build a home lab?
I think the main message, really, is that creating a home cybersecurity lab, even if it starts basic, offers just tremendous advantages. You gain practical skills, you get a much deeper understanding of security.
And critically, in a safe place.
In a safe, controlled environment, exactly. You can experiment with essential tools, fundamental concepts, without any real-world risk.
And it doesn't have to break the bank to get started. You mentioned just using virtualization on your current computer is a totally valid way to begin.
Absolutely. That's a perfect entry point. And then as you progress, it's important to remember to focus not just on the tech side, but also understanding that human element we talked about.
Right, the weak passwords and phishing clicks.
Yeah, and also just being mindful of the legal and ethical considerations when you start using more powerful tools like packet sniffers or exploring things like honeypots.
So it's about building both the technical chops and a broader awareness of the whole threat landscape.
Exactly right. Building a home lab is really a proactive step. You're taking control of your own cybersecurity learning journey.
Yeah?
It lets you get that firsthand experience with the kinds of threats that might actually be targeting networks like yours, and you start to develop the skills to understand them and hopefully defend against them.
It definitely makes you think, doesn't it, about what kind of digital evilness, as the Sans post put it, might already be knocking on your own network door, and how setting up your own little cybersecurity playground could actually give you some real answers. Definitely some food for thought there.